Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss the just released interview with writer and director David Gordon Green. And in this interview, he talks about his newest film, of course, Halloween Ends, and provides insight into the writing room and creative team that wrote the story for the film. And finally, he breaks down the ending of the movie, and we'll find out why he chose the specific ending that we see in the final release of the film. So buckle up because it's showtime. Let's go. So Entertainment Weekly has posted an interview with David Gordon Green, and it's very revealing. The headline is, Halloween Ends director breaks down that wild ending. And now the article reads, we went through a lot of endings, says filmmaker David Gordon Green, of tying up his franchise trilogy, which began with 2018's Halloween and continued with 2021's Halloween Kills. Some were really bleak and some were less bleak. The version we ended up with, I think, is optimistic, hopeful. After Kills came out with a bleak ending, I didn't want to do that again. I wanted to have some sort or some note of satisfaction. We've been writing this probably for 4 years, says Green. As soon as the first movie came out, we started designing the next two with different writers. So Danny and I were writers on all of them, and then we would bring in different writers to help us curate our crazy brains and give it focus. We were writing this simultaneous to Kills with a different writing team. All right, guys, so I'm going to stop here for a second and jump in and just give you some of my thoughts on this. So we see right here that, there are several different endings that this movie could have been, and one of them actually was put out on the test screening, which we'll talk about later. But the biggest thing I want to mention here is that it was definitely a very much conscious decision to make sure that this was a happy ending, right? They wanted, like he said, they did not want to end it the same as Kills, where it was dark or bleak is the word he uses. So they wanted to turn it around and make it a solid, happy ending, if you will, for the protagonist, in this case, Jamie Lee Curtis and Allison, I guess you could say as well, but especially Jamie and the town of Haddonfield. So that was a choice that at some point they made because he did not want to do a bleak ending again. So that's one point. The other point I think is worth mentioning here is how he talks about designing the next two, obviously that'd be Halloween Kills and Ends, with different writers. And that how him and Danny McBride were writing on all of them. However, they would bring in the different writers, co-writers, to help to give them focus, the script focus on what they were talking about. And they were writing it simultaneously to Kills with a different writing team. And I think that's part of the reason that this movie is not landing a lot for Halloween fans, because it's a different writing team. It's not the same. And I know David and Danny are there for all three of the movies and the writing. However, when you bring in new writers, you're going to have different ideas and perspectives, different desires, and all these things that you have to balance out between what do I put in the movie, what do I not put in the movie. Is this worth showing, and is this worth putting in, or is it not? So we're not going to know how these conversations went down. We're just not. We're not going to know how they went down until we see the movie. However, I will say that hopefully it was a situation where, they all came to mutual decisions, and that there's compromise in these kind of scenarios, of course. And however, my biggest thing is that I wish it had just been Danny and David writing all 3 films and not having these co-writers come into the team that's new, wasn't part of the previous films, because that means you're bringing in new ideas that aren't fully invested in the first 2 movies. And I think that could be a problem. It could be a problem because it's a different writing team. So that's why I think this movie one of the reasons why this movie does feel so different. It's a different writing team. Now, when talking about the specific fight between Laurie and Michael, David revealed, quote, "We had spectacular fights that have been in it from the first draft," he says. When you get into principal photography on the film, then you have the stunt team, and you're trying new things, and then you shut it down and you go shoot it again at the end of the movie. The big showdown of the film we did in different increments. We assemble it while doing something else, come back to it, review the footage, and do some more. I want it to be emotional. I didn't want it to be just another brawl. I wanted to have some story points. So I'm sure you could look through it with a microscope and find a lot of continuity errors from the beginning. A lot of continuity errors from returning to that set multiple times. So just real quick, some of my initial thoughts here really quickly is that I really wish we had seen a brawl, much more of a brawl. Like, I enjoyed the fight that we had with Michael and Laurie. I do like it, but I wanted it to be longer. Honestly, I wanted it to be another 5 minutes. I wanted that finale to be huge, epic, like just one that's talked about for ages as the ending fight of Michael and Laurie in the franchise. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be talked about very much at all when we talk about this franchise, because it seemed to be, compared to how it was marketed, a little bit underwhelming is the word I've been using. And I think that's probably because, again, this movie was marketed from day one, trailer one, as a Michael Myers and Laurie Strode showdown. This was supposed to be the film where it is the epic battle finally happens, the finale, the final chapter. It comes in with their epic battle. So I think a lot of people who were just watching that first trailer that came out and did not really get into the details of the movie are very surprised. They're very shocked. It's not the movie they expected to see. And I think that, getting this insight into David Gordon Green's thinking, where he intentionally did not want this to be a big brawl. He wanted to be more story points to it. He wanted to be emotional, and I'm okay with that, thinking like that also. But I think you can do that and still have it become a brawl that lasts for a long time before it finally ends. So that was one of the things that I was a little disappointed in reading after seeing the movie multiple times. I've seen the movie 6 times now, and it was simply because I wanted that. And I think the majority of the fans that are in the theaters wanted that brawl. That's exactly what they came to see. And that's one of the reasons why I think the movie's hurting right now. Now, regarding the final sequence with the film that we see with Michael in it, and the entire procession to the junkyard, the article goes on to say, the sequence in which the population of Haddonfield watches Strode dispose of Myers' body was a late addition to the film following screenings of the movie's early cuts. I screen movies a lot from the very first assembly, says Green. I want to watch the audience as much as I'm watching the movie. I'm ping-ponging back and forth, trying to see when they're engaged and when they're not. He continues, we were trying to do a little bit more of a modest, intimate ending. Kills was big and expansive and super noisy and aggressive, almost like an action movie at points. And I wanted this to return to the simple, dramatic roots. But then there were times when I thought it just didn't play big enough and I wanted some scope to it. We wanted something more grand, and that became the procession sequence. So the actual ending of the movie we came up with this summer, like 2 months ago after we screened it a few times. All right, so basically, again, guys, it's just kind of reiterating what we've been talking about here and what I've been talking about and sharing on live streams is the ending that we have here. If you watch it and think this feels a little rushed, a little tacked on, it's because it absolutely was tacked on. I mean, David tells us right here, it was something that was added later. It was done in reshoots after they watched the test screenings and the results. And he basically said it all here himself. That's exactly what happened. And so it does have a little bit of that feeling, kind of like the Karen death in Kills. Just kind of has a almost just a strange tacked on feeling. Like it's like, wait a minute, where did this come from? It doesn't flow with the rest of the movie. And it kind of is the same in this scenario here. Now, I do appreciate the fact that we have finality. We have a final answer as to Michael's fate. They didn't leave it ambiguous or open for interpretation. It's very clear. There's no coming back from that. So now, do I think that Michael Myers will be back? Absolutely. You better believe it. Just not this, timeline of Michael Myers. That was the end for sure. So anyway, like I say, guys, it's, I appreciate the fact that David is trying to kind of scope out the audience, get a feel, try to make the movie better. But at the end of the day, it's impossible to satisfy all of the fans. You're never going to make everyone happy. And so my initial feeling on it is, as a writer of the film, just go with this, tell the story you want to tell. You can't be worried about audience reaction and who's going to like it or not like it. Because someone's going to love it and hate it no matter what your ending is. So I really do wish that he just would have come together and said, this is the story as the writer, I want to tell for this movie. Here's how I want it to end. And then you just do it and let the chips fall where they may. Some will love it, some will hate it. Guess what? This new ending, some love it, some don't like it. It's the same difference. So to me, it doesn't really make a difference. In the end of the day, it's going to be the same net return. Just make the movie you want to make. So in a way, I'm sad that we didn't get to see really what he initially was going to do, whether it's bleak or not. I would love to have seen his vision for this movie without any influence of test screens. Because look, he's the writer, he's hired to make the story and complete this trilogy. And I would love to have seen what it was supposed to have been originally. Just my thoughts on that regarding the ending. All right, everyone. Now, I want to know what you think about David Gordon Green's comments regarding the ending of Halloween Ends. And I want to hear your thoughts, ideas, and opinions and feelings about the movie overall. And again, what he said here in this video specifically. So start leaving your comments below right now in the comments section so we can begin discussing this together. Well, that's going to be all for this update, but I'll be back soon with more Halloween Ends and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.